Social rejection and why it doesn't have to define you. Now, what is social rejection? The term social reject is a crude way to define someone who does not simply fit in. We hear that term and imagine someone on the fringes of society. Maybe in our minds, they are socially awkward, mentally unstable, rebellious, or even dangerous. In reality, not all social rejection is equal, which is true. There are even some benefits to not fitting in with everyone else. Social rejection does not have to define who you are, and in this video we're going to go through why. Before we get started, this video kind of ties into something I did previously, which was overcoming loneliness. I'll leave a card right here on that if you want to check it out. Kind of keys in, a little bit relative. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started. Let's break down social rejection as a whole. What is it? Well, we're going to go in more depth. So we're going to break down social rejection as a whole. Social rejection is what happens when an individual is not accepted into a certain society, culture, or group. I've dealt with social rejection pretty much all my life too, so this hits close to home for me too. There are many reasons someone may experience social rejection, ranging from difficulty managing social skills to dangerous behaviors or physical disabilities, even mental disabilities. I've been dealing with the mental disability one for a couple months now, trying to make friends, and when they find out I go to therapy and stuff, they're like, oh, we can't be your friend. Maybe after you get some help. I'm like, well, I go to therapy, they tell me to try and make friends. I'm trying to make friends, and people are saying we can't be your friend because you go to therapy. Really? Anyways, so those of us who are affected by personality disorders, also low social or financial status, and those with non-traditional beliefs or attitudes are particularly vulnerable to social rejection too. Sometimes, we can't define exactly why someone becomes a victim of social rejection. It just happens for no reason whatsoever. That's life. You can't really control that. From a sociology point of view, everyone who is involved in a large group must contribute something beneficial to gain acceptance. That's pretty much the standard norm. The group, even on a subconscious level, is looking to succeed by having the most unity and consistency possible. Also true. And anyone who disturbs the perceived uniformity is deemed a threat, an inconvenience, or at the very least a potential source of disruption. Whether the rejected individual intends to do so or not, it doesn't really matter in this case. There's been research that shows that social rejection dates back into like the medieval days, which would make sense because, burning people who have weird funky hair, you're a witch, you're a wizard, weird things like that. Today, social rejection has morphed beyond its original purpose and exists in almost every aspect of our modern lives. Now, social rejection happens if we don't know wear the right clothes, if we don't listen to the right music, maybe we don't look right, or we act weird, or we eat things that aren't normal, like, if you're vegan or gluten-free. I see a lot of, stigma around those two things online and stuff. It's kind of stupid, actually. Social rejection is difficult because as humans, we need social interaction to survive. To be fair, it's a wonder how I've survived this long of very minimal social interaction. Yeah. Loneliness is not only uncomfortable and depressing, it also affects our physical well-being too. And this keys into a video I did on the benefits of healthy friendships. I'll leave a card here so you can check that one out. According to university studies, this one was done in Chicago, extreme isolation increases one's chances of dying prematurely by 14%. And I kind of did mention this in that overcoming friendship video. A shocking statistic which speaks to the importance of how much we need to relate to others around us. It makes sense. It's life, You're raised with friends if you're lucky, sometimes you're not. Social rejection can start as young as kindergarten. The good news is that social rejection, despite being a phenomenon that deeply affects our health and is strongly embedded into us, does not have to define you. Everyone is a victim of social rejection at some point in their lives. And it means that we're trying to fit into a place that's not meant for us. When social rejection happens to you, remember these key truths. Everyone contributes to something. If you didn't already know, the world has about 7 billion people on the planet, and everyone comes with a different set of personality traits, skills, knowledge, talents. Social rejection makes you think that what you have to offer others does not matter, or even worse, that you have nothing that others desire in the first place. I can relate to that. I make baby clothes and stuff in my spare time, try and sell them, give them away. Most of the time I just donate them because I can't really make sales, and they're really nice clothes too. I try to make a buck every now and then. And as a result, this is simply a product of negative self-talk brought on by the act of being rejected. It's very far from the truth. There is no one in the world exactly like you. Everyone is different, We all experience different things, and we had different lives growing up, good or bad. And as a result, you have a different perspective on life. No one on the planet shares the same perspective as you. Maybe if you have a twin, but even then. Think of each day of your life like a puzzle piece. Each one fits perfectly with the others to form the overall picture that is, well, you. You'll truly belong to a group that recognizes and appreciates what you're capable of, and when you feel a special role within that group that cannot be substituted by anyone else. This means that your unique personality, the things you're good at, and your mental, physical, and emotional well-being and emotional presence serves the others in the group, and are likewise to serve you. Again, this goes into overcoming loneliness. Finding the group that you fit into will require you to see what you bring to the table and connect with those who appreciate those particular qualities. Now, it's important to know that being socially accepted isn't everything. It's natural. You want to fit in with a group. You want friends. You want to feel like you have a purpose, right? But that's not the only thing that will bring fulfillment into your life. In fact, as soon as you start looking for validation from others around you to bring you happiness, you immediately begin neglecting the happiness that you can create for yourself. You immediately begin neglecting the happiness that you can create for yourself, which makes sense. Emotionally strong individuals have a healthy sense of self-confidence, self-respect, self-love, and notice all those concepts being the word self. This is because these vital tools help us build our inner selves from within. Putting your self-worth completely into the hands of others means you give them the complete power over how you view yourself, which is dangerous because you care for you as you will care for yourself. It's only natural. If you're trying to gain acceptance to achieve happiness, it's important to realize that happiness is temporary. As soon as the situation changes in any way, the happiness will fade. To have the long-lasting happiness that creates meaningful satisfaction in life, you must have a solid emotional foundation within yourself that only depends on how you see. With time, your tribe will come. Just because you don't fit into a group right now, it doesn't mean that you're destined to be alone. In fact, the most meaningful social relationships are often the ones that develop without force. That is because when like-minded people come together, their energy flows naturally as everyone's emotional needs in the group are met. It's kind of like the puzzle piece. If you feel like you need to change a part of your life to fit in with a crowd, it's a clear sign you have not met the right group for you. Instead, try focusing on being part of a group that's just like you, because it's easier to think about who you are when no one else is around. For example, if you like classical music, I love classical music, and everyone else around you likes pop music, hip-hop, rap, right? And never seem to invite you to group outings or concerts, that's a sign that you should start exploring the culture that speaks to you. Instead of trying to force your way into a pop music crowd just because you are already physically in your space, head to the next orchestra performance in your area. There's a lot around, probably. Classical music will never die. Allow yourself to create natural friendships based on something you care about. You may meet some folks you have something in common with. You never know. The odds are in your favor. The numbers do not matter. With that, basically, when it comes to social acceptance, quality is better than quantity. Because the number of friends you have will never make up for having meaningful ties to others who accept you, no matter who you are. Think of how often you see tragic stories of celebrities taking their own life. They are constantly surrounded by adoring fans, peers, and acquaintances within the industry and have an impressive social media following. Despite being surrounded by people each day, they still feel pain and isolation, which is normal. Simply having these people around does not mean those relationships are made of love and appreciation, which matter when connecting with others. There's a certain attraction to the idea of being welcomed by a large group of people. In fact, we see the idea of popularity perpetuated in movies, sitcoms, TV shows, the news. But the truth of the matter is, you'll always get more fulfillment out of deeply connecting with just one person as opposed to having a dozen acquaintances, a dozen friends, a dozen fans, and they hardly remember your last name. But it's also important to know that you shouldn't fall into the trap of thinking that you don't have the right number of friends. There isn't a right number of friends. Friendships are nothing we collect. They are living, breathing figures we must care for just as we do with a child or a pet. And that type of commitment requires quality. Attention is not always possible in a large group, which is also true too. Social rejection is a painful experience, whether you like it or not, whether it happens within our families, our careers, our friendships, our community. Rather than thinking about it as something that proves there is something wrong with us, it is important to remember that it simply means that we are trying to fit in somewhere that we don't belong, somewhere that's not meant for us. Not belonging isn't a bad thing either. It's simply a sign that we must keep looking for a place where we belong. Sometimes social rejection has a reason. Unfortunately, certain physical or mental barriers prevent us from always being able to connect with those around us. I can relate to that. However, we are lucky to live in a time when there's opportunity for everyone to find a place where they are needed and valued. So, instead of viewing social media rejection as a limit, remember that it presents an opportunity to find where we can contribute. It allows us to build a healthy foundation of self-love. It lets us await the crowd we truly belong to, and it helps us create quality social connections that will last a lifetime. If social rejection has been a problem for you, you can reach out to a psychiatrist, talk to your doctor, go to a counselor, and it can change your life. You're not alone, and there's always someone out there who can help you, who can support you. With that being said, I thank you guys for tuning into this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.